Musically meditated.
Musically meditated. Musically meditated.
Hello, everybody. This is our first episode. My name is Joey Riley, and I am here with my big homie, Big Sret Dog. Sret, how you doing today?
Good. World's greatest producer. You forgot to give me a nickname.
World's greatest producer.
I'm doing well.
He's doing well.
I'm excited about this show.
And I'm very excited, too. This show is me researching music and bringing, I would say, more independent music to you, the listeners, to check out. And the reason I'm doing that is because a lot of people that I talk to, I'll ask them, hey, do you have a new album that you like or a new song that you like? And they're just like, no, I just listen to the radio or I listen to this, which is fine. But there are a lot of new artists that are out that are more on the independent level that people may not know about.
So we're recording at Green Door.
Yeah.
But what's really more important is we're recording from Hobart, Indiana, which is the northwest part of Indiana.
Right.
Which is, people will fight us, but it's kind of a suburb of Chicago.
Southeast suburbs. That's
So
what I tell people.
We are in Indiana, but Joe's going to come at you guys with musical knowledge and his musical taste and bring in guests to talk about music in a place where people know their music, but don't discuss it very often.
Yeah.
You just went to a concert last night.
I did.
And you'll get into it.
I'll get into that.
You're gonna bring the knowledge.
Right. I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. And here's a question that a lot of people would probably have. Well, what makes you special? Nothing makes me special, but I will say this about music. It's entertaining for me. I really feel I have a good knack at honest music. If it's kind of phony or kind of fake and somebody's trying to push it, I'm not into it. So just listen to me. I'm telling you, I could lead you in the right direction. And here's another thing, too. When I was younger, I was more of a metalhead, or even younger, more just into hip-hop and whatnot. But as I have gotten older, I'm not stuck into just one genre, and there's a lot of people out there that just still stick with one genre and they don't go outside the box.
Right.
But I have been, and I have been for years. That's a part of maybe growing up or maturing, but I don't find myself just focused on one genre. I'm going all over the place now. As time goes on, you'll be able to tell, like, hey, he really likes this type.
Deftones.
Yeah, I love the Deftones. If you know me, you know that for sure. And a background with me, as far as music goes too, it all starts on your influences, and it starts with your parents, and it starts with what you're watching. So I come from that generation where it was Headbangers Ball on MTV, and then Yo MTV Raps.
I remember both of them.
So those two shows were very influential, and especially MTV. Now, my mother, she's a great drummer, and she was always coming more from a Motown vibe. She liked a lot of soul and just old school Motown. Now, she liked her rock and roll, but then my father, he was more into classic rock, early British heavy metal, just all over the place. But in the household that I grew up in, there was always music playing. Like one of my first moments that I can remember musically, my mom would rock me to sleep, and she would listen to Benny and the Jets by Elton John.
Nice.
Like I still to this day remember that beat and everything, and I would fall asleep to it. So music has just always been around. And another person I want to give a shout out to that's influenced me musically was a guy named Kirk, and he was a neighborhood adult, and he would babysit, like if my parents went out, and he introduced me to heavy metal, and he introduced me to Motley Crue, Metallica, so on and so forth, a lot more Black Sabbath. So a shout out to him. Like, he kind of directed me more in like the more obscure, darker, heavier things. So yeah, shout out to Kirk Jackson. He was a big influence of mine growing up, but same with my mother and father. And then I started playing bass guitar when I was 15. So I've been in a number of bands. I've dealt with that before. I've gone into studios. I've put out EPs and LPs and whatnot, but nothing extremely too successful. But I've kind of been there and I've done that. And then I've also gone to so many shows, indoor and outdoor, so music has just really been a big part of my life. The main thing about music and why it's very important to me is I think it's very essential for personal growth and self-reflection as a person.
Right.
It helps you. You could listen to a song that brings you back to a good time or a bad time.
There's a lot of good movies that are musically pushed forward. I'm not saying it right, but you ever see High Fidelity? The whole movie is about this guy's mixtapes about his life. Like, he knows what year it was and who he was dating and what kind of tragedies happened in his life and what good stuff happened, all based on the songs that he listened to.
Yeah.
So there's the same thing. You hear a song, you think about your first love. You hear a song, you think about like you said, you think about how mom used to put you to sleep at a time in your mental development when you weren't aware of anything But that's what that song reminds you
But
of.
that's what it reminds me of.
Right, and it's like cozy and nice, and it's a wonderful memory. Something that's stronger than the memory itself.
And there's the bad ones. I remember it was probably like, I was a little kid, summer of 89 or 90, and my parents would not stop listening to Tom Petty's album. I forget the name of it, but it was that, and it was the first Black Crowes album too. And like to this day, I hate those albums. They would not stop playing them. I forget what summer that is. Somebody could Google it, but like I forever hate Tom Petty and the Black Crowes because my parents would not stop listening to those albums. You know, so yeah, music is everything. It's my life. It's my passion. And why should you listen to me? Because every day of my life, I'm listening to music. And when I'm going to work, I'm listening to music. When I'm at work, I'm listening to music. When I'm in the gym, I'm listening to music. And if I'm not, I'm researching something on my phone,
Right.
or going to a record store or talking to somebody about it. Or in my other free time, I am a musician myself. So I'm playing my bass, or I'm getting on the drum kit, or I'm making beats on a drum machine, or playing a guitar. You know, it never stops. It's just such a huge part of my life. And I feel like I spend so much time, and I find a lot of good bands, and a lot of people never have heard of them. So I would like to promote that. And what I'm trying to do too is to listen to the feedback from the audience. Like, hey, I like this album because this is why I like it, or this is why I don't like it, because I've kind of gotten away from a lot of popular pop music, but it is important. Pop music is important, and I'm getting back into it a little bit now because there's something more to talk about, and I'd like to get feedback from people. Why do they like this particular song, or why is it number one on the charts right now? I don't understand. Why is it so popular? Like, I can give you my opinion, but pop music it's really in a strange place, in a really strange place right now.
It is. This is a bad example. I'll say it's a bad example up front. It might be a very genius example. But back in the day when Britney Spears was just coming up, when she had Hit Me Baby One More Time, and then she had that run of pop hits, just like, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years. I think then it went down a little bit right when the second or third Austin Powers movie came out, when she was like a fembot.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of the height.
Yeah.
And then some craziness happened. But I didn't really like her music. I liked her. I thought she was sexy. Everything was cool. Her dance moves were good. Songs were catchy, whatever. But I didn't think anything of it until years later. I was at a club, and it was Britney Spears night, right? And it just happened to be a gay club.
Okay.
And all these dudes were going crazy for every single song. And I'm looking around. I was with my girlfriend and a group of her friends. And I realized, I was like, oh, man, like, actually, these are all really catchy. I don't know what it was, like maybe time sweetened them or made them better. Then I was like, maybe I need to appreciate like pop music a little more, because every one of these, I'm sure she's not singing the majority of them. I'm sure she's not coming up with the melodies or the words or any of that stuff, but she is performing them, and they have recorded them, whatever, orchestra of garbage or however you want to say it got made. It's a pop song, and it's catchy as hell. She's got a bunch of them that are super catchy. I'm not going to listen to her in my car, but I appreciated it that night. And then I'm like you, probably different. I was like, maybe I need to appreciate pop music a little more. Stop listening to like old heavy metal.
Yeah, you got to be progressive and
It's
move
good to have different
forward.
tastes.
There's
all kinds of awesome music out there.
There's a lot, and I really try to pride myself into liking all different types of genres, But back to Britney really quick. I always liked Britney.
Yeah.
She was my favorite out of all of them back then in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, I was attracted to her the most, so that probably had something to do with it.
So.
But she has some talent, and I think, she had her little meltdown, but we all have meltdowns, and it looks like she's back on top. Like, I'm not going to go to her concert or buy her album.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see that she's moved on, and she seems a lot more mature and a lot more happy, and so shout out to Britney. Shout out to Britney Spears.
Hey man, we don't know. She might come through, be a guest.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
But to move on here, just real quick, Sretton, tell everybody about the Green Door and where you're at and where you're located and what you're doing.
Green Door Books and Studio is a used bookstore in downtown Hobart. It's right next to the Art Theater, Northwest Indiana. And what we're doing is we are selling used books at extremely low prices. And also in the back, we are a recording studio, and we are trying to mostly do podcasts. and we have mostly community shows, like community run shows. We're not looking for national fame, but if it finds if it finds Joe's show, that would be wonderful. That's all there is to it right now. We're trying to build our reputation slowly as a community space, as a place where you can come and look at art or get together if you have certain interests. But our main thing is the books. If you walk in, you have a really nice time. Everybody that works here is friendly, and most of the people that shop here are pretty friendly. And as you can tell from the knowledge that Joe's about to dropping
that knowledge,
the people that have certain interests with these shows that we have are extremely knowledgeable. I feel very lucky to be the producer of a lot of these shows because I have interests in a lot of different things, especially music, but I just don't have that in-depth knowledge. And I'm really excited to listen to a lot of the topics and discussions that Joe's going to have with me, by himself, and with the people that he brings in here. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have guests, local musicians. I'm going to put a very big focus on Northwest Indiana and local musicians in the area, and certain businesses that I've attended, and record stores and so on and so forth, and Chicago as well. But we are in the region. I think the region kind of gets forgotten about. They refer to us as region rats. So
yeah, it does get forgotten.
I'm here, you're here. Let's talk about the region. So that's what's going on. All right, let's move on. I want to get into an album that came out last month, which was August, so it's very, very recent. And I really, really like it, by a band called Oh Sees. Now, they were called the OCs. They were called OCS. I heard of the name, and I would see them pop up, but I thought it was a really dumb name for a band. Sorry, but it's a dumb name, so I never really paid close attention to it, right? But now the name is OCs, so it's OHSEES. And the album that was just dropped that I really, really love is called Orc. Mm-hmm. And the album cover is really neat. In the Orc, what is that from?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah. Thank you. So immediately the album cover caught my attention, and then I had a friend mention it, and then I was online and I kept seeing a lot about this album. I'm like, well, let me check it out. And I love it. It's I would say the OCs are a band that has a garage psychedelic punk rock thing going on. There's definitely punk influence, psychedelic rock, and just good old fashioned rock and roll vibe. Mm-hmm. And it's
is it real noisy?
The guitars are noisy. The guitars are very noisy at parts, but they're catchy. The guy's name is John Dyer, the main guy of the OCs, and he and the OCs have been around for 20 years. This was their 19th album, which blew me away. And I'm like, I've kind of heard of them, but that's what's awesome about music. It's like all of a sudden this drops, and I look into it a little bit more, and like, he's been around for this long. Right. Like, what's going on? And he originally started this group as just like not a gag, but he was in all these different punk rock bands and whatnot. And he just started this as like a recording thing because he has his own record label. And I guess it's really taken off. But the thing with this album that I noticed right away, the drumming. And the drumming, the best way I could describe it, it was just, it's really fun. Like it has an Afrobeat kind of vibe to it. Mm-hmm. And then the bass player too, like, so the drumming and the bass, the drum and bass, the rhythm section of this is really, really tight. And the John Dyer guy that is essentially the band is the guitarist, songwriter. But I was like, what's going on with these drums? And then I was listening and I looked into it a little bit more. They have two drummers. Mm-hmm. So there's only one thing in the world that's better than an awesome drummer that's having two awesome drummers.
Right.
So the rhythm section of this album is just, it's amazing.
So they always, 19 albums, always two drummers.
No. Okay. Thank you for asking that. I looked into this album too. This is the first album with, I believe it was another guitarist that wasn't a part of him anymore, of the OCs, and he got a new bassist and two new drummers. So this was, and what the guy was doing, what they've been doing is putting out an album once a year. So he got rid of the main collaborator in the band, and he got some new dudes, and he did a great job at picking them out.
Yeah.
As far as, like you said, with the guitars, they're very layered. They're slick. They're noisy. It's kind of choppy. And when I listen to him and what he's doing, I hear a lot of influence of Greg Ginn from Black Flag. And that's awesome because I love Greg Ginn. He's like one of my most favorite guitarists of all time. He's definitely in the underground, but you can hear those elements with this, with like John Dyer and where he's going with the guitar approach. But what's really neat though, with, like I said, back to him as a musician, he's also playing the organ. There's organ parts. There's these cool analog synthesizers and neat little interludes, because like the opening track, it's very noisy and it's going to hit you in the face. But then like this album kind of reminds me of like with the title Orc, you're kind of going through like ups and downs of like a forest, like and maybe some battling between orcs or like taking over a castle or a small island. Like, it takes you on this really neat like adventure. And it's really neat to hear a rock album that does that because especially like in that genre, psychedelic punk, like it's kind of just, like in your face and, there's not a lot of twists and turns and different avenues. But with this album, it's all over. And like why I'm really pumped up about this too, it's fun. And it's nice to hear a fun album because Dyer, the guitarist, he sings. And there's parts where it's like it took a little bit to grow on me, but there's parts where it sounds like he's an orc kind of like taking over the castle. Or, then I hear like a weird influence too of like Mark Bolan from T-Rex, and Mark Bolan and T-Rex, like that's just some classic rock and roll. So you could tell this guy is just a well-rounded musician, and the two drummers and the bass player that have joined him are well-rounded musicians, and it's just a really fun album. And they just played too in Chicago a week or two ago, and I just stumbled across it and I wanted to go, and I figured, well, they're not mainstream, and it was at the Talia Hall. And I was like, okay, I'll sit on it. And I looked and I was off. So I hit a friend up. He's like, yeah, I'll definitely go. And the day I was going to buy tickets, it had sold out. So if there's anybody out there that went to the show and would like to, I don't know, say something about it, give me a shout out. That would be great.
We'd have the Gmail account.
We have a Gmail account. What is that again, Sretton?
Musically meditated
at gmail.com.
That's right.
At gmail.com. But yeah, please check out this album. It's just a lot of fun. It has like I say it's fun because it reminds me of hanging out with your buddies like in the garage, drinking a 6-pack of beer fun and eating a pizza and then maybe playing a board game. It just has this really fun vibe, and it's nice to hear that with rock and roll. And like I said, the rhythm section is just absolutely amazing. And the Oh Sees Orc, check that out.
Yeah.
And I would give it a rating. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I'm giving it a solid 8 out of 10. That's pretty high for me. It's hard whenever I rate albums. Like this one's going to probably be in my top 10 of best albums dropped in 2017.
So let me ask you this, so that people get an idea of what 8 out of 10 means. What's a 10 out of 10 for you? Like just rattle one off. Anything.
An album that's a 10 out of 10?
Anything, any genre, anything. Something that you listen to or something that sticks in your head that you're like, oh man, that was one of the best.
One of the best albums ever.
I know it's a big question that just off the top of your head.
Yeah, off the top of my head, a 10 out of 10 album.
I remember for me you remember the Chili Peppers double album, the Saturn and Mars?
Yeah.
For some reason that was 10 out of 10 for me because I feel like I played every single one of those songs on repeat. And that was right before the internet kicked off super hard where you had access to 1 million songs all the time. That was before Spotify and Pandora and all that. And I remember working, and I would just switch off the CDs, and I never got tired of any of the songs. It was just crazy. And I'm not even that big of a Chili Peppers fan. Right.
That's a great album. What makes a great album is you don't skip the songs. You let it play through. And with this album, Back to the Oh Sees Orc, it does that. There are a few times where, they're going up the mountain. Like I said, it's like they're exploring mountains and castles, and then they do hit the gully, and it slows down and the tempo slows down. There's a few times on this album where they draw it out for way too long. So that's why I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun, so please check it out. But back to your question, a 10 out of 10 album, 36 Chambers by Wu-Tang Clan. That's a 10 out of 10.
A good one. Yeah,
that's a classic. Yeah, that's a classic album. Like hip-hop wise, you just can't beat that.
Yeah.
Another one too, Led Zeppelin 3 is a 10 out of 10 for me. That's just a classic, awesome rock album. And then basically anything by Black Sabbath. The first six albums.
I was going to ask what's a 1 out of 10, but I guess we don't need to go there.
No, we don't need to go there.
No, that's
okay.
pushing bands under the bus type of
right
discussion. We don't need that.
Yeah, we'll stay away from.
That's
the
why
one
the second half of your show is called meditative.
Right.
Meditate.
Musically meditated.
Yeah, musically meditated, because Joe doesn't talk about it, but he does too, about meditation. And the role it plays in his life, and how music is actually music is a form of meditation. It's a way to quiet the mind. It's a way to, focus. How many people study and put on a song? How many people work out and put on a song? Drive, put on a song. Not to be, sometimes they do it to be away from the situation they're in. A lot of times they do it so they can be more focused on the situation they're in, so that field they're walking through it feels nicer. That hill they're walking up, they could appreciate it more,
Absolutely.
All that stuff, especially live music.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you get into live music and you're outside somewhere and somebody cranks out a drum solo or a guitar solo. Woo!
Speaking of drum solos, these two drummers, there's a part on this album where there's just this drum solo kind of out of nowhere, but it's awesome. And it's just like, what? I wasn't expecting that. Like, there's a little touch of ADD rock in this. Like, it follows like a little bit of somewhat of a path, but they definitely adventure off, and that's what's really neat. So definitely, this is an album everyone should check out. Cool. Everyone should check this album out. Cool. Now, moving on to another album. It's called, it's by a boy band. They're actually calling themselves a boy band, and it's an experimental hip hop group called Brockhampton. They have 2 albums that came out this year. Now, here's a little story about Brockhampton. There's a guy named Kevin Abstract, okay? He's from California, and they're all younger. They're maybe late teens, early 20s, and he started this project where he's a rapper, but he rented out a home in L.A., and he put something out on the internet saying, hey, if there's any good MCs in the area, I'm looking for a producer, I'm looking for a merch guy, I'm looking for, MCs, like, send me your stuff, and I'll see if you're good or not, if I like you or not, and then you can come join my boy band called Brockhampton. So he did that. So there's probably, I can't remember off the top of my head because they're really new, but there's probably 7 guys in the group total. And I'm really happy with what they're doing, because there's a lot of popular hip hop right now that's going in just a negative direction. And when I say that, they're focusing more on misogyny and doing drugs. And I mean, that's always been a part of hip hop, but they're taking it to a level where all the pop songs right now on the radio, that's what the lyrics are all about. So if that floats your boat, that's good for you. If you're listening to it at the club, like, there's club records and then there's regular hip hop records. So if that's what you're into, that's fine. But with these guys, I think the production is really tight. Their videos are really neat too, like on the internet, how they're releasing them. The marketing strategy that they're doing is really neat with the videos, and I think they're going to get into fashion. And then they have a lot of different ethnicity within the group, which I think is very, very important for hip hop, and it's a big part of hip hop, because in music in general, music shows no racism, and nobody cares about your sexual, preference and so on and so forth, because Kevin Abstract is openly homosexual and he raps about it. And that's something I've never heard before. So more power to him, but that's something in hip hop that's always been kind of like, I think Frank Ocean from Odd Future was like the first to come out, but this guy's like not only out, but Kevin Abstract's like in your face. So it kind of caught me by surprise, but hey, everything's changing, hip hop's changing. So like I said, more power to him. But the rest of the album it's just amazing. And these guys they're going in a cool direction, and they're so young. So everybody should check it out. My favorite MC out of the group, his name's Matt Champion, and I think he's the best. There's 2 others. Like I said, there's so many. They have like a rap group vibe that was very 90-ish, like from the 90s, like they got one guy with the crazy hair that kind of acts like Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan. They got a couple guys that rap that are more street and talk about maybe more gangster stuff. You could tell they're a little bit older and come from maybe some tough areas,
right?
And then you have another guy that does the production and he sings. And it's funny because you wouldn't expect him to be the guy that does that for whatever reason, but he can pull it off. Like, he can sing the choruses and the hooks, and that's what's really neat about this album. The production and the hooks and the bars, and when I say bars, like what they're rapping and saying, like they have a lot to say, and it's pretty talented, and it's neat to have that taste from so many different guys in the group. They're like putting their little flavor,
right.
And I think that's awesome, because if you're just a solo artist coming out, what we're going to get is your same flavor all the time. Like same with NWA. I'm not comparing these guys to NWA in any way or Wu-Tang or something like, but it was nice to come out as a group and everybody got a different flavor from each member,
right.
and then they go from there. So
is there like beat wise? Is there a group that you can compare them to?
Beat wise,
or like the sound, I should say.
Yeah,
like the sound.
I don't. These guys have a little Odd Future touch to them. Odd Future's with Tyler, the Creator, and Earl Sweatshirt's a part of the group, and they're flamboyant and they're just kind of wacky and crazy. And this is kind of like a stepbrother of them, but they're even younger. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a really good idea for everyone to check it out. If you're looking for a decent kind of poppy hip hop, like I could see these guys being on the radio. Maybe they are in some areas, but a lot of people that I talk to, like big hip hop heads, are like, oh, there's nothing good coming out anymore. And you just have to search for it. And this is a group that everyone should check out. And like I said, they dropped 2 albums, Saturation 1 and Saturation 2. So there are 2 different albums that they came out with. I was introduced to Saturation 1 and I liked it. And then the second one literally just came out last month. It's September now, so it came out in August. Mm-hmm. So it's a really, really good hip hop album for everyone to check out. Now, there are parts that I skip through, so it's not a good put it on. Like I said, put the album on and let it go through. Saturation 2 is quality until like the last quarter. I think there's 20 tracks, so maybe the last 7 tracks are a little meh. But I would give this album Saturation 2, I'd give a 7.5 for a hip hop album.
Okay.
So please check it out. They're worthwhile. Check out both Saturation 1 and 2, but I like 2 better. Now moving on to a band that I actually just saw last night, a band called Metz. They're actually from Canada, and all I could say about them is imagine if Nirvana had a baby and they forgot about that baby, and then he grew up to be this guy that's your cousin. Okay, stay with me here. So he's like that distant cousin that you have that is about 14 or 15, and he's an underage drinker, and he's got all that extra booze that he stole from your grandma or something ready. And then he's really antisocial and abrasive. Like, that's what Metz is. It's that stepchild, or whatever of Nirvana that is just abrasive and kind of shady and just to himself. So yeah, Metz is a noise. They're a 3-piece. First of all, they're a 3-piece noise punk rock outfit from Canada. I probably said that 1,000 times now. But the best way, I don't know. They just came out with a new album too. So they've had 2 albums in the past and a buttload of singles. And the first 2 albums, I was referred to them from a friend because I was in a band at the time, and I told him kind of our sound, and I'm like, kind of like an aggressive Nirvana kind of Bleach era. And he's like, hey, you need to check out this band Metz. He's like, that's exactly what they are. So I went and I checked them out, and that's exactly what they were. And I was kind of like, this is crazy. Like, it's not crazy music, but it's abrasive, it's unsettling, it's uneasy. But with music, I like some dark anxiety, fun, like an unpredictable feel, like, because life isn't all puppies and rainbows.
Right.
So, there are times where I want to listen to stuff that makes me a little bit uneasy. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the first 2 albums, like the Metz is really good at like the same tempo, the same rhythm tempo, and it's kind of, they deliver with a huge impact. Like they're the loudest band on record I've heard in years is the best way I could describe it. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even know how one would be able to record, but like their amps are on 11 if it existed. Mm-hmm. They're not on 10, and they're a 3-piece, so it just blows me away. So the bass and the drums, like I really like rock bands that have a great rhythm section, and the bass and the drums with Metz, like, they are relentless. They are just, it's a power, it's just a power struggle between both of them. Like, it's just like a locomotive that's gone off the tracks and it's not going to stop.
So when you listen, it's not like they're in sync as far as like, but it looks like they're fighting each other. Yeah,
like rhythmically they're in sync, but it's just like, it's relentless. Like, imagine like being trapped in a small closet for some reason, and somebody just comes up to you and says, "Wake up!" Like they just shake you. Like that's what their music does to me. It's just like, ugh. And then it catches you in, and it's just like this noisy cesspool of angst and
But it's wonderful.
So to the guitars, they're a noise progressive punk rock band, and the guitars are aggressive, and they could be a little bit noisy for some people. And then the vocals as well. Like there's not a lot of screaming, but a lot of like kind of sorrow behind it. You could tell maybe he's in a dark place, very not bored, but just in a rough spot. But with this new album that just came out, literally a few days ago, I was interested to see what direction they would go in, because like what I just described with their sound, you can only take so much. And each one of their songs would only be about 2 minutes long,
right? But
they followed the same path. And then as any band or as an artist, you want to try to take some different avenues and a different approach. And with this third album that just came out, they did just that. And what I found out, well, first of all, they're on Sub Pop Records. And Sub Pop is, Nirvana was originally on Sub Pop. There's just a ton of people, like ton old grunge acts, older grunge acts that have been on Sub Pop. But they recorded this new album with Steve Albini. And I thought that was pretty amazing, because Steve Albini was the guy that recorded a ton of bands, but, In Utero by Nirvana, and he's in Chicago, so that's neat because that's near us. And I believe he did a Pixies album, but he's known for finding bands and finding that Steve Albini recording sound. And with him to get with these guys, I was pretty blown away. But they were able to take all that crazy, relentless sound, like the relentless sounds, but they were able to sparkle some gems on there, because there's parts where it's relentless and then it'll stop. They're playing with sounds like they're progressive hardcore, and then there's maybe a touch of like alternative pop in there with the drumming and with the singing a little bit. I'm going to say with the bass and the drums are the same with this. It's like a swirling tornado. It's relentless. They don't stop. But the guitar is a little bit different, and it's super slick. It kind of sounds like a well-oiled slinky, like falling down an escalator one at a time. Like it's just really, really slick guitar, fuzzy and noisy. With this album, what they did different, they're adding like different explosiveness and pretty colors to a style of music that's so abrasive that I don't think anybody else could pull off. And I don't think maybe these guys could have pulled it off either if they didn't have the help of Steve Albini. Mm-hmm. And Steve Albini kind of has a reputation of getting a band and maybe turning them upside down to sound like Steve Albini's recording. But I think the opposite happened here. Like he got involved, but they stayed true to their sound. Mm-hmm. And he was able to add a few textures of pop and some positivity in their music, because it's really dramatic and it's really relentless. The new Metz album, it's called Strange Peace. I give this album a strong 7, a very strong 7. Because the first time I listened to it, I don't know where my mind was, but I was like, ugh. It's a grower, not a shower. There's a lot of albums like that.
Right.
And that's what this is. It's not something you're going to show to your mom. It's not something you're going to show to your grandmother either. But it's definitely, if you're into noisy progressive hardcore, with a 90s sensibility, with a touch of pop, and if you like bands like Drive Like Jehu and the Melvins and early Nirvana, Bleach, things like that, I would definitely check this out.
Cool.
All right, so ironically enough, talking about Metz's new album being a favorite at the moment and just loving them as a band, I just got to see them last night at the Talia Hall in Pilsen, the south side of Chicago. And first of all, shout out to the Talia Hall. That place is beautiful.
It's awesome.
And historically, it was built, I looked up the history, it was built in 1852. Some dudes, maybe some women's, they got together and they redid it. And I know that they own a bunch of different other bar venues that have shows in Chicago. I think like the Empty Bottle was one, but shout out to the Talia Hall. Check it out, people, especially if you like live music, and see if your band's playing there. And if they are, go there. Like that place, the whole setup was very, very nice. The lighting, the sound. They had $10 tall boy 24-ounce Pacificos. I love Pacifico. Who the hell has that? Seriously, man. It was a great time, great sound. But Metz, like I said, I've never heard three dudes sound so loud, but loud in a good way. Like they're just a relentless act of just pulverizing noise rock, of plummeting post-rock awesomeness. And the vocals were great. The lighting was great. You know it's a good band, especially in rock and roll, when it's kind of hard for you to just stand there with your arms crossed. Like, you got to get into it no matter how old you are. And I did that, and I'm paying the price right now. I'm a little bit beat up. My shoulders hurt. Other areas, other joints. My body's reminding me that, hey, you're not 19 anymore, but whatever. YOLO. You only live once. And they kicked ass. That's all I could that's all I have to say. In the Talia Hall, sound was awesome. The security was cool. I just had a great time. So please go there. I can't promote that place enough. Metz was just it was a good time. I wanted to see if they could. I've read about them and their live performances. They just played Logan Square Fest in Chicago over the summer. I wanted to check that out. But they're definitely that type of band you don't want to see outside. They're too noisy. Like, that has to be entrapped in an indoor venue. And that place was the best place to see it.
Right.
So that's all I have to say about Metz Live. They were great. Go to Talia Hall. Now moving on to what's hot and what's not in new releases. And the first thing I'm going to start with here is Morrissey. My homie Morrissey. He
I thought I heard a Morrissey song on the radio.
Is it on the radio?
I heard one on the radio, yeah.
Okay.
One of the singles, I don't know.
It's called Spent the Day in Bed. Imagine that. The king of mope, or the pope of mope, has a song that's about not going out and dealing with society because it's so glib, and staying in bed and not catching the subway to work or getting in your car. And that's what Morrissey's doing on this new single, which is funny. But I love Morrissey. I love the Smiths, his earlier band. If you don't know who the Smiths are, you should really check them out. You really should. But I was expecting a little bit more. His last album was very rock influenced, and it was it was called Years of Refusal. I think it came out 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was really happy with that because I like the Smith stuff a lot better than Morrissey's solo. But Morrissey has some really good solo jams. So with this album, I was like, okay, it's going to be, I was just thinking it's going to be more rock, and it's not. It's just a poppy song. It has like a kind of little upbeat mandolin intro and kind of just like a total poppy beat. And I really, in the beginning, I was like, it was a kind of album. But it grew on me a little bit because I am a Morrissey fanboy. Right. So yeah, check it out. If you like the Smiths and you like Morrissey, I would check it out. So I'll move on from there. Weezer dropped a new track. These are the songs I'm kind of on. Weezer dropped a new track after releasing an awesome album last year, the White Album, and I don't know where they're going with this, but I'm just.
Was it rough?
Yeah, it's just the production. It's super super slick, overproduced. I just wasn't feeling it. I mean, that's kind of been a trend, it seems like, with Weezer throughout the years. Mm-hmm. Like, in my opinion, they'll put out something really good, and then they'll just take a nosedive into something awful, and I don't know what that is, but it seems like they're doing it again with this new single. King Krule, here's one that I like. King Krule, I kept seeing his name pop up online. I'm like, who is this? Who is this King Krule fellow? And I went on Spotify because I was looking for what's popular and big pop hits, and his name came up, and he was sprouting up all over the internet. And I really like his new single called Dumb Surfer. And it's got this weird jazz lounge hip hop vibe to it. And then he's got this crazy delivery. Like, he's done hip hop in the past, but he's just this skinnier, young British dude, like with red hair. And he just kind of has this like deep baritone, gnarly voice. And he's kind of flowing with it. But I was really surprised. That's a single that dropped. I guess he's coming out with a new album, but everybody should check out King Krule, Dumb Surfer. It's a really cool single. Like, he's the kind of guy, like, he should be promoted more. I believe he's been on like a few nighttime shows, and the Brits, they don't always get a lot of love in America, especially pop stuff. It doesn't seem like if they do, it comes a little bit later on, but
music geeks love him.
Do they?
Yeah, but he is not known out here. I don't even know how well he's known. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any ties to England, but
right.
But yeah, definitely out here. If you're a music geek,
King Krule?
You know of him, or you're a huge fan of him.
Really?
But yeah, out here.
Yeah, check him out. Everybody should really check him out. I hope he blows up because he's going in a cool post. I hear a very big post-punk vibe in this particular track, and I think him and his band, because it's one of those things. Like,
do you dig it?
I dig it.
Yeah.
And I think that if he's going to go in the post-punk direction with it, that's a good outlet for him and his band. Like, I'm getting at Kink Rule is a guy, but he does have an awesome band behind him.
Right.
And the video is really neat, too. He just shows up at this kind of divey bar, and they're all like the rest of the band's kind of zombified and stuff. But I really like his approach. He's extremely original, and I love original music. So that's one of my favorite singles. Another favorite single for all you electronic guys and gals out there, it's an artist called Igloo Ghost, and the track is called White Gum. And he is coming out with a newer album. At some time, there's like 2 or 3 releases on Spotify. But if you want to hear some really good glitch pop, some IDM, EDM, you know, there's some influences of house and techno. But if you have a really good stereo system in your car or in your house, like the production and the song structure for White Gum is awesome. Very, very good. Check that out. And Four Tet, he's another electronic artist that I've liked for a long time, but he hasn't really dropped anything worthwhile in my opinion. But he just dropped a new single called Scientists, and everyone should check that out too. That's for people that like more of a skit-scat kind of techie type of techno music. Like, I like to call it brain dance. It's an actual term.
Brain dance?
Brain dance. Yeah, that originated from Aphex Twin. And he's in the brain dance kind of category, and he's awesome. So check out his entire older catalog for sure, but I like where he's going with this new single. Another one that I like, because I like her a lot. How could I say it? Her name, well, first of all, her name's Chelsea Wolfe. She put out an album last year that was awesome, especially for female singers. You know, like, I love women vocalists. You know, some are garbage, some are good, but I like the way she does it. I hear a lot of PJ Harvey behind her. Her album last year, she actually joined a band, and the band was like doom metal-ish. So she kind of has, I don't want to say she sounds like Evanescence, but she may be like the new dark hipster Evanescence, you know? You know, like, seriously, I think that's what she is, but lyrically she can sing, and her new single I liked a lot. And then I just looked yesterday, the whole new album actually dropped. So I'll get back into that one a little bit later. And another single that came out by a female singer, and maybe I'm a little bit biased because I've loved her forever, but Bjork just came out with a new single.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
How
and
was it?
It was okay. There's a lot of landscapes in this, like a lot of Bjork stuff. You know, you hear like jingles and wind chimes and, you know, like her coming from, God only knows where she's coming from when she's singing, but I love her voice. The single, like, if you have, like, I think it might be a 7-minute track, so if you have like 7 minutes to hear a lot of whistles and croons, you know, turn it on. She's coming out with a new album sooner than later. I forget what the release date is, but I would definitely check it out. And here's a band that I like, and they dropped a single, and I was really upset with it. It's Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. They're a doom band from England, and you hear a ton of Black Sabbath and their influence. You know, they're a really cool band. Please check them out. Their first couple albums are awesome. Mind Control is my favorite album by them. But they just dropped a single, and it said featuring somebody else, and apparently this is the guy singing, and whoever this guy is singing with him, it wasn't very good. The music was pretty tight, but I hope they don't include him on another single or a new album. But Uncle Acid is a band everybody should check out if you like Black Sabbath and doom metal. But the singles got me a little bit worried. And then good old Glenn Danzig.
How old is he?
I think he's 61.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll probably get a lot of crap for this because I have a lot of friends that love Danzig, and I love him too. He's like the same kind of character as Morrissey for me. Like, they do really rude things, and their egos are so out of control to where their egos are my entertainment, right. You know, but you got to respect them, and they're both awesome, and they've both brought a lot to music, you know, especially with their genres. Like, Morrissey's the king of indie rock. He just is, you know, vocally, and then Danzig's the king of punk singing and certain types of heavy metal, you know. I mean, he's the man, but his new single and his new album is just, it's awful. He needs to hang it up, you know, like, at least, like, I'm comparing him and Morrissey, but at least Morrissey's new single is poppy, and it is what it is. But the new Danzig, and a lot of people are upset with it too. He's such a control freak. He's in control of the production, but he's a shitty producer. So it's like, who's going to tell Danzig it sounds like crap? I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
You know, like no one wants to be that guy, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty awful. But another thing too, the most popular song right now, and I'll close on this with the popular songs and give you a little insight. But I was going on my Spotify and I wanted to see the top song. What's the most popular song in America? And not only America, it was the entire planet on Spotify, and that's Post Malone Rockstar featuring 21 Savage. And I'm like, that's the same thing. Like with King Rule, I kept seeing this Post Malone dude. Like he just kept popping up all over. I'm like, who is he? And like I would see his album cover. I think it was from last year, and I'm like, it doesn't look like my thing. So I checked this song out, and this song, it's a club song. I don't see anything really moving about it. Like the beat's okay, it has its regular hook, and then you have 21 Savage, and he's one of these newer new wave trap rappers, I guess is what they call it. And I don't get the flow of these guys. Like their flow is very monotone and boring. Like they don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about. Like I guess it's a new trend, but I'm used to like,
I don't like that.
dealing with rappers from the golden era that like you knew who it was when they were rapping.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like that's like if you heard, that's Be Real from
there was
Cypress
energy,
Hill.
but there was also an energy to their cleverness.
Yeah.
Like when you heard them say something, you're like, "Woo!" With these other guys, you can barely hear what they're saying.
I could barely hear what they're saying, and you know, there's a lot of heavy metal where people are like, I can't hear what he's saying. He's just screaming. Like that's true.
Different.
But that's different because with hip hop, yes, it's about the beat, but it's more about the bars and the lyrics.
Right.
And these new trap rappers don't impress me. So he's a really popular guy too, 21 Savage. Like he's very popular. I don't understand why. If somebody could reach out and tell me,
how could they reach out?
You can email me, or you can tweet me, or you can page me. I have a pager. At any rate, so Post Malone is the guy that I'm bashing 21 Savage, but Post Malone's the guy that's singing the hook with the vocoder on, because that's a big thing right now too.
Yeah.
You know, so it cuts out the imperfections in your voice. Like I think Kanye was the first guy that was doing that for a while, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so with that track being what it is, if I had to rate it, I would give it a 6. Okay, I would give it a 6. Like it's not offensive. It's just that song when you go to the bar, it's gonna be on.
Right.
It's gonna be on probably like 4 or 5 times. And then, you know, it's one of those. But back to Post Malone. So I was like, who is this guy? What's going on with him? So I look him up, and then I saw on Vice, on Noisy, they had like a little mini documentary on him. I'm like, okay, cool. So this guy is from Syracuse, New York. He's Caucasian. All right. His buddy moves out to LA and he's got nothing going for him. And his buddy's a DJ. So he's like, hey, can I come out to LA with you? He's like, sure, come on out to LA. So he goes there. He doesn't have anything. He gets a guitar. He starts playing guitar, and they have like old YouTube videos of him and stuff. And he could play, and then like he's singing, and it's like he's got a decent voice, you know, like when you watch the old YouTube videos. Well, his friend puts him on with a couple of DJs that had worked with, I think they're like DJ producers that maybe did some work with like Drake or Wiz Khalifa. I mean, don't quote me on who it was, but they got with him, and he's like the first guy ever. He's like a total SoundCloud protege. Now, I don't know if Chance the Rapper started on SoundCloud too, because I know he was independent, so don't quote me on that, but he got with these two dudes, the producer and the DJ, and they made his first single, and it's called White Iverson. So he's got, and it's like a dedication and like an irony spinoff of Allen Iverson, and he's a white dude, but he's got these braids or whatever, and they just post, like they put it on a SoundCloud, and then they spent some money and made like a decent produced video and put it out there, and it just blew up. It just literally blew up. And I don't remember hearing it when it came out. Like I'm not searching for this type of music. So when they were interviewing him and whatnot, like I liked his personality. He's a likable guy. And I think that's really neat with music now. Like you could just blow up overnight, and it's all about the internet. And that's what's really neat too. Like when I spend my time to research and find new artists, it's all at your fingertips. And I love that. Like I still like the old school way of going to a record store and searching.
Right.
But if you love music, you can find anything you want on that computer or on your iPhone or whatever it is. And that's who Post Malone is. And I don't know who's funding him, but his new song's #1 in the world. So
something's working.
Great job, Post Malone. But if somebody could tell me why do you like what is there to like? I mean, and what he does is he sings. So he's like one of those in between guys. Like he's singing and kind of rapping.
Right.
you know, and I think Drake is the main guy that does that, and I think Drake pulls it off. But this dude, I don't know, that's Post Malone, so, you know. At any rate, and here's some upcoming shows I think people should check out if you get a chance. What do we have here? First of all, Agnostic Front is coming. They're an old hard school skin band. They're playing at Reggie's Rock Club. Reggie's Rock Club is a great place to see any kind of punk rock show or any small intimate show, but Talia Hall's better. KMFDM is coming to the Metro. That should be fun. I didn't know either. Oh, that would be a lot of fun. Who else do we have here? Bone Thugs is coming to the Forge in Joliet.
Oh, my.
Thuggish Ruggish Bone, talking about a 10 out of 10 album. There you go. East 1999 Eternal. Seriously, that's a definite 10 out of 10. Like, that album was so big. I still put it on probably once a year. Yeah. Crossroads, come on.
Around Christmas time?
Come on, man. They just came to...
I'm not knocking it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
Dude, that's
I'm
a great... That's an all-time awesome hip-hop album. Don't hate, Stratton.
I don't.
All right. Pianos Become the Teeth. I love Pianos Become the Teeth. They're a progressive hardcore band out of Baltimore. They're playing at the Metro October 7th. You should definitely check them out. I have like a personal bond with their music. It goes really deep. They made a shout out. I lost a loved one, and one of their albums is about losing people. You know, like someone that you loved. And it was just like right after it happened, and the person that passed away was supposed to go to the show with me. They weren't able to make it because they expired, unfortunately. And I told the guys of Pianos about it, and I was just, you know, besides myself. And they were cool, and they were supportive, and they, like, did a little shout-out before one of the songs, so that was really cool. Nice. So, yeah, if you like progressive hardcore, definitely check out Pianos, Become the Teeth. Another show at the Subterranean in Chicago. Touche Amore is going to be there. They're a progressive hardcore band out of L.A., I really like all their material thus far, for the most part. Definitely check them out. The Descendants, they're coming to the Riv, another good punk rock band. They'll be there October 7th. And then locally, I know UFO's coming, old British heavy rock, you know, British rock and roll there. My dad turned me on to UFO when I was little. They'll be at the Concord Music Hall, and then I know that they're playing here at, what's it called?
At the Art Theater?
No, not at the Art. That would be awesome. UFO, you should come to the Art. Yeah, at the Star.
Yeah.
They're coming to the Star with the Scorpions.
Really?
Yeah, don't quote me on that. I just remember UFO. UFO. And then here we go. The Pixies are coming to the Chicago Theater. Oh, I love the Pixies. You like the Pixies?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I you know what? I looked that one up. It's sold out, but maybe you can find it on StubHub. That's October 8th. Marilyn Manson's coming. Yeah, he had a new single. I didn't bring it up. October 10th. It's okay. Here's another one. I'm going to actually talk about this next week. Brand New. I love Brand New. They just came out with a new album. I'm still digesting it. They're playing at the Aragon Ballroom, or Brawl Room, as we always refer to it, October 16th. Definitely would like to check that out. The Far Side, classic old hip-hop. They're coming to the Subterranean October 18th. And then we got some death metal. I love my death metal. Don't get it twisted. We got Suffocation coming to Joliet October 20th. Yes. Got some Black Dahlia Murder, too, at the Forge. Oh, this is like some big old death metal fest. I'm into that. I'm into that, man. We're gonna talk death metal. Oh, here's Chelsea Wolfe. She's coming. I might check that out. Metro, October 24th. Katy Perry, Stretton's favorite. What's that song that's out right now that you like?
Swish, swish.
Swish, swish? All right.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure that's
what it's called.
Is that you or your girlfriend that likes swish, swish?
I don't. Neither one of us.
But
I don't mind her. I just don't like.
I like Katy Perry. You don't like that song?
No, it's rough.
It's rough?
Yeah. I watched a video. I didn't know what was going on.
I know
there was basketballs and she's wearing short shorts.
Does she look good?
Yeah.
Good.
She always looks good.
I know. Katie, you always look good.
You come out of a trash bin looking good.
Easy.
Okay.
All right. Basement, love them. British. I like a lot of British shit. I don't know what it is. They're another kind of post-hardcore band. I've seen them before. They're October 26th at the Metro. Here's some more. Here's some more death metal. Cattle Decapitation coming to Reggie's. I actually gave my left ACL to Cattle Decapitation in a mosh pit about 10 years ago.
Was it worth it?
No. Not at all. And I told Travis, the singer, about it. He's like, yeah, I broke a rib. Thanks for giving. And I'm like, well,
thanks for giving.
It's the scene, man. No, it's not. I just blew my knee out, man. Rough. Okay. We got R.A. the Rugged Man Portage Theater, Chicago. He's a great MC. October 29th. October 30th, King Rule. All the nerds will be there. Sretton, you and I. King Rule, October 30th, the Metro.
Nice.
Please check out that single, though. I like it. Dumb Surfer.
That's a day of the week is that falling? We'll find out.
We'll find out. But that would be kind of a neat show to see. I like what he's doing. But yeah, check all those out. I looked that up on Bands in Town, and everybody have a good week. I'm musically meditated.
That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated.
Thank you.